action.
They said they didn't hear everything you said. They want to know about women getting education, and they want to know, did Al-Qaeda finance the Taliban? And so I think if you could sort of recap, because it's clear to you, but it's not clear
You
to
know,
us.
Women were not discussed yet.
Okay,
yeah, you know, I just feel
the women thing
we're not talking about the core problem here.
there. Oh, let's talk about
The core problem is not Taliban or Al-Qaeda or why. We should say, why is this happening? Where were these Talibans? Where was this Al-Qaeda about 20, 25 years back? Why weren't they there?
Well, so tell us why.
They've come from somewhere, right? There's somebody financing them. There's somebody giving them weapons.
So it's the Pentagon that's helping them out still?
Pardon?
Is the Pentagon still financing them?
We really, I don't know, but there is someone doing it. I can't
Are they
believe.
popular in Afghanistan?
I'm telling. Well, it's the thing about popularity. What I said was, the people don't care whether it's America, Britain, or who provides them security is the most important question. So it's not about Taliban being popular or not being popular. The people are sick of what's happening to them.
Aren't they sick of the American intervention and soldiers?
To be honest, tomorrow the American provide them all the basic comfort, security. They would not be sick of them. But if the Americans or anybody else is a reason for that, they would be sick of anybody who's the reason. They would say, "Can you let me? Can you leave me alone?" It's not about who is responsible and who they feel is good or bad. What is important is that their life, their day-to-day life, is being disturbed. They're not happy about that. Whether it is the people of Sawat, whether it's the people of Afghanistan, whether it's the people of anywhere.
Is Malfouz financing them? Someone's asking.
Who?
Malfouz? M-A-L-F-O-U-Z?
Oh, I haven't seen one really.
What is Malfouz? Who's
I don't know.
Malfouz?
I'm just reading what people are listening.
Yeah, well, they say yes to it. We don't know what that was.
Can you talk a bit more about that moment of peace?
Billionaire. It's a billionaire.
You're talking about 5 years of peace, 5 or 6 years of peace,
No drugs.
up until 2001, and it sounded like community had been restored, and people were beginning to rebuild and reconstruct themselves as Afghani, as Pashtuns, or whatever. Talk a bit about that time period and why you thought the peace was there. What was happening?
What's different?
Well,
Very good.
the one thing that everybody wanted was security.
Yeah.
And these Taliban provided them the most basic thing, and that was security at that time. There were no weapons, there was nothing. There was no education. They wouldn't let people play, they wouldn't let do those things. But many people who said, listen, I just want to live. I'm not really interested in getting my daughter go to Harvard or something. I don't even have money to eat. I don't have anything. But I'm alive. Which the warlords weren't providing them. That little thing, and that was, okay, I can live. Nobody's going to kill me. It was fine for them.
So in that time period, people supported each other. So I
People-
don't have money, you have a little patch of this
Exactly,
and that, and I have a little patch, okay.
And there was no poppy.
Where'd the money come from?
There was no money.
There
They were
was no
living-
money. He's talking about a time when community...
Their logistics was, what was their logistic? Grow your own bread and have a bit of yogurt and live on it.
And you share with
And
them.
did they have weapons? The Taliban have weapons to keep the
Talibans
peace?
have
And did they
weapons.
have to? And they
Talibans
would be,
have weapons.
it would be like
Yes.
a mafia game.
Talibans had weapons.
Security game.
Talibans had
Or-
weapons. Or Talibans.
business.
We shouldn't say Talibans. The government of Talibans had weapons. Because they had the government. But everybody else did not have weapons. That was the first time in the history of Afghanistan where people did not carry weapons so publicly.
So what?
And so children during this time, trying to get a feel for this.
Yeah.
Because I think we need to get a flavor here. So in this time of peace, children played and children went to the mosque. And this is what children were getting, what education they got. And it was around their religious education and being developed as Muslims. in this time?
People, I would say people were denied the basic rights at the cost of security.
All right. So kids did not go to the mosque.
Kids did go to the mosque.
They did go to the mosque. All right.
Kids did go to the schools. Kids,
Madrasas or something they're called.
well, no, there were schools.
Regular school.
There were
Oh,
regular
oh.
schools. There were doctors. There was little clinics. But as you would imagine in that very impoverished country, there was not many facilities. Women used to wear burqa, but again, coming onto burqa, you go to Bannu today, people wear burqa. It is not because they've been imposed burqa on. They like wearing burqa.
It's the historic
That's a
culture.
hard thing
It's
for.
a cultural thing. It
It's
has
our
nothing
culture.
to do with religion.
But they don't want to allow girls to go to. Who are the people that don't want girls to go to school and
That's-
that kind of
that's-
barbaric attitude toward
that's-
women? For
That's
really
that's what
is-
I'm saying. So people were choosing between whether they're secure under Taliban or they are insecure under the warlords and do nothing and get killed. That's how the Taliban
So,
gained the ground.
so
Yeah,
are you
oh.
telling me they took weapons away from Pashtuns who were known for carrying a weapon when they were born?
Did they turn
No,
them in?
the
or-
law and order. The law, the law and order improved. It's just like you
Nixon.
have a mayor of a town
Oh,
who
you're-
says, listen, I don't want to see anybody carrying weapons.
Giuliani.
So you have a good mayor who says, listen, I don't want any gangs.
I see.
He nodded his head. It's like
Exactly. So
Giuliani
it
laid
was
the
more
law
of that.
down, or Nixon.
Talibans were very poor people, but then they enforced certain measures of security.
So you're talking about a period of stability. That's what I'm hearing, is stability.
Law and
in
order,
community.
law and order.
Law and order,
Yeah.
I don't know if I want
After
to call
grand
it,
instability.
I wouldn't call it stability because stability should be bringing progress. There was a law and order, but at the same time the country was going down and down and down.
Economically.
Economically.
Well, that's if you base it on...
Exactly.
But in the history of the Pashtuns, is economics the thing that drives the people, or are they driven by something else? Something deeper, perhaps. So you may not have all of this toys and finance and all this stuff to get out of the West, but you have community and people share and care for each other. That is what I mean when I talk about
But
stability.
I would say that thing was lacking.
Okay.
The life of Pashtuns was totally different to what they would live under Taliban.
You can't conflate the two, Taliban and Pashtun.
They were, I mean, the way they
I-
lived, Pashtuns lived totally different to how the Taliban rule was imposed.
Do you find there are people in the
How
West
that
for their
was
own?
imposed. So it
Yeah.
is a cult. It is something that was...
It's not. I wouldn't call cult is more about belief. You have to
Government.
to be a part of a cult. You have to believe in something. It was not that the people believed in what but the people were sort of happy that generally they were secure.
Are Pashtuns cult? They be considered a cult too?
Pashtuns?
Yeah.
No, Pashtuns is like Italians.
Italian.
It's a people. It's
I have a
40
question
million
here.
people.
It's the largest ethnic lineage in the world.
That's amazing in itself. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
someone
47. 46,
Ladies and
47
gentlemen, we have a lady in the balcony.
Someone
Dr.
says,
IQ.
yeah, something's come in here. If Karzai is crooked, why should the United States stay there to support him? And then what does the U.S. have to do to get out of there?
This is not a question
No.
for us
Pack
to
his
answer.
bags and
This
go
is a
home.
question for Karzai and for the US to
We
answer.
would have to ask him.
Well, I don't know who Karzai is.
He's the president.
He's the
As
president.
the president.
They
Who
just
just
had an
illegally
election.
took
He's
the
the president
election.
of Afghanistan.
President of
Is he
Afghanistan.
considered crooked?
Well, by a
Well,
lot
let's
of
say
people.
that he stole the election.
I
That's
don't
what
know.
everybody's
There was a
saying.
recent election, and like you say, his opponents and international election observers say that the election was rigged and he stole the election. That is said by a group of people. There is an equally large group of people who say no, he won genuinely.
Which one would be more amenable to the U.S. getting out of there? Because we're all tired of being at war in Iraq, and we have our own problems.
All
here at home.
Afghans, or let me say majority of Afghans, including I think not just the Pashtun, even the non-Pashtuns, are not happy that the US is there, or the world community is there, or ISAF soldiers are at liberty, able to shoot at people, and every now and then it happens, and even the Afghan government of President Karzai has complained so many times to its own allies in the United States and in the in Europe that they don't want the kind of operations that have been taking place, because those operations have killed a lot of innocent people in Afghanistan.
Drones.
I mean, drones is just one weapon system. It's not just the drones. It is tanks and aircraft and drones and bombs and everything.
Right.
It's a war,
Right.
all right?
Right.
And you think people like that war? Or people of Afghanistan who don't want America to get out of there? People of Afghanistan will be happy if the world left them to resolve their own problems. But there are some over there who now, under the current circumstances, are in a position that they will, if the world community was to withdraw ISAF suddenly from there and US forces suddenly from there, what will happen is that Afghanistan will fall into a terrible security chaos. All right?
Under Taliban?
No, not under Taliban.
Warlords.
I mean, Taliban and non-Taliban
civil
will be fighting
strike.
with each other.
Oh,
It will
fighting
be-
each other for power.
No.
No.
If
It
the
will be
US
chaos.
leaves,
Chaos.
yes, if the US leaves, Taliban would
Yeah,
instantly
but so
come.
what?
But the-
Afghanistan has been ruling itself for thousands of years with its warlords. America, what business do we have there? We're like,
You know, let's talk.
Yeah, it's a very
this
important
way.
issue. Mr. Obama is considering the
You
same
know,
issue.
but there's a reason why you went there, all right?
for
The
the
reason was
pipelines.
9/11. All right?
9/11, oh my
Yes,
God.
that's why you went there. I mean,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
you don't know
No,
that.
that's why we went.
I thought it was
That's
all
why- that's why we went there.
We believe the Pentagon committed
across
9/11.
India
It was after 9/11.
We don't believe in 9/11. We know that the government in China are responsible for 9/11.
Well,
No, there's
We have a
something.
war government. The Pentagon gets $600 billion a year to create war. They do it in Indonesia and Africa, all over. They
I
pump
can
up.
see-
War is their business.
Welcome to Hyde
I
Park
can see you're
Corner.
wearing a T-shirt which says "Sold for Iran," which means peace with Iran.
Yeah, peace with them.
Yeah. I can see you are a Pacific man, so I appreciate that. But I'm just trying to tell you what happened. I'm just trying to say what happened to you.
May I put my two
What
cents
happened?
into this?
All right, Mr. Let Joseph Ben David get his 2
one
cents.
word, my mouth was...
The voice of wisdom, gentlemen.
This I don't know, but in any event, considering the geopolitical situation, it was a very, how should I say, revealing presentation. If I'm looking at it from a non-geopolitical point of view, I have to think about some of the deeper causes of this horror, because it is a horror whether we look at it
It is a horror.
this way or that way. I don't want to talk about the psychological part of it because that's sort of too specialized. But I would like to raise the issue of religion. If we are dealing here with a country which is Muslim, and Islam in itself is a kind of a paradoxical thing, just like Judaism. It has the best and it has the worst. At its best, it is the submission to God, to Allah, right? But what does that mean? If that means submission to a theocracy, submission to religious dictators, that's one thing. But if it's the submission to the highest values of life, it has to do something with that universality. After all, Islam is universal. See, Judaism was very tribal. Christianity was already more towards love, towards social justice and so on. And Muhammad came up with this idea of universalism, Islam, that all people would be united in a way which would save this world from the coming destruction which it is now facing because of the collapse of all human values and anything that has to do with creating a global society of freedom, of justice, and of peace. We have the opposite now. How can now the people who are in this basic conflict, like you yourself or me or anyone else who is in some kind of a position where they do something that is more or less significant, torn between this, how should I say, high culture to which we would aspire and this terrible reality in which we are imprisoned. How do you deal with this conflict?
In 30 seconds or less, a soundbite we need.
Yeah, but I mean, this is something which is not particularly related to the issue that
No, but
that
it's
was
worth,
at heart of our discussion.
it's
This is a
there.
very philosophical
I'm
thing.
sure Mr. Obama's taking those things into account as he considers Mr.
I hope he
General,
is, and it'll be good if he and other
Chris
leaders of the world actually take that into account.
Yeah, he's very focused on
On
that
a more
now.
practical level here, somebody wants to know, the U.S. doesn't want to support a president that the people don't want. We're still confused. Do the people want
Karzai.
Karzai or not?
I mean, that's, like I said, that's not a question for me or him to
No, but
answer.
that's who's saying that?
That's coming in
America
on the
doesn't
internet.
want a
Coming in
president.
from here.
That's
No, no.
big.
People
Someone
in
said,
Afghanistan
Harold,
don't
let
want a
him
president.
answer.
No, I thought he's saying America doesn't want a president.
No, the question is,
Question is, do they have a
Afghani
choice?
people want Karzai or not? Really?
Oh,
Or
who
that's
knows? Who wanted? What happened? Who?
Or maybe
What the
they did,
Americans
John.
people wanted in 2000?
Oh, right.
I mean,
right.
why are we
Gore for
asking
president.
that question? How,
Yeah, it
how
doesn't
would
make
we
sense,
know?
Right.
How would we know whether the Afghan people want Karzai or not? Elections were held. We're talking about, fraud in elections. Do people want
Chad,
Hosni
so far.
Mubarak? I mean, this is, we really can't say that. Whether the Afghan people want Karzai or the Afghan people want anybody else, or what do the Afghan, nobody's asking Afghan people.
But you know they want to be out, you know they want the U.S. out of their country, right?
Well,
we
not
don't even know
necessarily,
that.
if it's
really,
going to be
necessarily,
chaos.
it's not necessary. I wouldn't really think they really want U.S. out of their country. Maybe, some of the urban places are really liking the way they are. They are more freer the way they used to be. So maybe they want that when U.S. leaves. I think what Afghanistan would want is when U.S. leaves, they have a security apparatus in place which can take care of their own security.
Well, what about the poppies and the opium? You were saying
Well, that's
this,
a different-
this peace was had when there wasn't any drugs around?
Well,
It seems as though we're
When-
talking about a trade.
for the time
Sir, we'll talk
when there was
I'm
when
not
there was
gonna
a
let that
rule
go.
of whatever law,
I'm
there
going,
was no pop.
I'm going first.
Why?
Because that
Because there was the rule of law.
philosophy and
The law wasn't good law. The world didn't like that law, but there was a rule of that bad law.
But the Afghanis like that law.
We don't even know whether
And
Afghans
I-
like, but there was peace.
Yeah, that's. It's
I will
not-
only say
But not
There-
peace
there was-
for women who couldn't take sunshine.
Well,
They weren't allowed out of the house.
well,
Without
I don't know.
supervision.
I mean, that's
Well, I think culturally
that's
we
a
need to be
pretty
very careful now.
that is a pretty.
Different world we come
That's
from.
not a very. I'm sorry to use this word, but that would not be a very educated interpretation of what the women wanted. You know why?
But no,
Because-
a woman couldn't show her skin
Let
for
him-
5
no,
years.
No, but that is the whole thing. Why do you have to say that unless a woman can show her skin, that's freedom?
Most
The
all of
women in most cultures in Northwest Frontier Province, which have not been under Taliban, don't want to show their skin.
It's called modesty.
I'm just saying.
We all need sunlight. You can't be in prison without
But
sunlight.
that is-
Let women speak
Yeah,
for
but talking
themselves.
of culture. Okay, let me because I'm not a Pashtun. I come from the Punjab, all right? And I, apart from Pakistani culture, I also know something about the Indian culture. We're just neighbors, you know. In the Indian culture, among the Hindus, particularly among the devout Hindu families, women are more veiled than Muslim women, though they do not wear a burqa. Do you know that? So do not say that a culture, because a woman can't show, women can't show their skin openly, there's something wrong with that, or they are, you know,
There's something wrong with that for her because she can't have sunlight, and therefore she's denied from healthy, normal
No.
things
So
that
what
God
would you
provides.
get? She can have a lot of
She can't show her face.
You know,
in
may
the
I say
sun.
something? May
She can
I
have
say something?
sunlight in
This is
private.
very interesting.
Criminal.
She doesn't
Don't
have
get
to
that.
have sunlight
No, no,
before you.
I'm not.
She
But-
can have sunlight in private, and there is no objection to her
But
having
there is,
sunlight in private.
what would be the limit of freedom? I mean, so you say, tell a woman, what would you really call a limit of sunlight? It's a relative thing.
The burqa
Some
does-
people-
burqa totally covered.
so unless they don't have a burqa, it's fine. But if they have a veil, is it all right? Or
Yeah, it's all right. You
That's
got
all
sunlight
right.
on your face.
So when a
That's
woman
all
is
right.
having a sunlight and lying in a bikini, well, there are parts of her body not having sunlight. She should remove the bikini to have the sunlight all
That's
over her
right.
body, isn't it?
This is
Isn't
not
that
At
right?
least let
I mean,
some
it's a
sunlight
very-
on the face.
But I think we call it a-
Depending on the
They
size
have
of the
sunlight when they
It's
want to
a
have. That's not.
Yes, a girl
As
direction.
a woman,
But-
I have to say that this conversation is a digression from the issues at hand. First of all, why are you bringing these cultural value judgments from your own culture into a situation of cross-cultural understanding where everyone's trying to agree and understand and exchange information? I think
It wasn't peaceful for women for 5 years. They were enslaved. I'm not saying that justifies American invasion.
But I think, can women speak? Let women speak.
Women couldn't take jobs.
Gentlemen,
They couldn't be
women-
alone.
I'm here with you and I can't speak.
There were
It
no
was
jobs.
barbaric.
There were no jobs. If
The
you
women
ask-
were teachers
Let me tell you,
in schools.
if you
Those
ask-
women, they were shut out of their jobs as
Let me tell you,
teachers.
if you ask the women of that area, they would say, "Oh my God, these women in America, they're in bikini, they're slaves. They have to be, they have to." I mean, it's such a relative thing.
Sex slaves.
It's not about
Yeah,
that.
they're slaves to
And
men's
believe me,
desires.
it's a totally relative thing. I agree with you. Women should be allowed to go to schools. Women should be allowed to, go to jobs. But where there are no jobs, and the only job is very manual, where men go and do the work. It is somebody who is probably stronger has to go into the mountains and cut the trees or do whatever. If you're
jobs
talking,
in the hospitals, their jobs in
there are no
restaurants.
What about
hospitals.
all
taking
over.
care of children and
There
your
are no
family? That's a
hospitals.
full-time
All right,
job if you do it
restaurants, whatever.
right.
Places
There
where
are
they
no
cook-
restaurants.
They could cook for people.
We're
There are no
slaves, but
restaurants.
we can't take care of our children. We
Whatever.
can't even
Can you
help
imagine?
children.
Let me tell you something. What you
See,
consider
the women start talking.
freedom
false.
is, what you consider freedom is, may not be really the freedom. In Pakistan, for example, the reason that most of the women wouldn't be going to job is because they have 4 children and it's a full-time job. They have divided that between themselves. My mother was a free woman, but she never went to job because she had 7 children to raise. Now you're going to say, why did she have 7 children? She liked it.
Right.
Yay for staying
Yeah,
home.
that's a big.
Yay for staying
Listen,
home.
Coley wanted
Let me say
to.
something.
Coley wanted to say something. We ought to let from the women. Let's hear from the women a
One of the greatest
little.
irony of history, this
Enough of
discussion
all
on
the men
clothes.
talking. I
And
mean, let
women
the
wearing
women
clothes.
talk.
When the Europeans hit Africa, they wanted everybody in clothes.
Mm.
They didn't want no sunlight.
Mm-hmm.
Darn sunlight.
That's right.
When they hit Hawaii, they wanted them in clothes. No sunlight. When they hit
Leggings.
Asia, they wanted them in clothes. No sunlight.
That's right.
We need to be very careful of the games that are run. The cultural games, political cultural games, to use to divide and conquer
Uh-huh.
and to destroy. So I just think that the women of Afghanistan, when they get ready to do whatever they got to do, they'll do it. Just like we do it here. We did our thing, and we're still doing it. And if other women want to look like us and act like us, They'll do that too.
Yeah.
But give the women some common sense. They have common sense.
They have a lot more common sense than a lot of men I know.
That we run this country. What little of it that runs.
That's good. Thank you. It's good that women bring this contentious sort of topic to a close, and we can perhaps go back to
the real discussion.
Yeah, and let's not forget Joseph Ben David's thought. That's the basic grounding thing there.
Thank you, Ben Joseph, for your good comments.
Absolutely. And let's not let that fall on the ground.
Joseph Ben David, the comment he makes is actually, I would say, we probably will need to go into a more of a philosophical discussion than a discussion on obtaining realities of on the ground. But the fact, but it's a fact also.
Or conflate the two, maybe.
Yeah, but what I'm saying about it's also a fact that this difference between the reality in the world and what is desirable has always been there, isn't it? You're right. You're right. I mean, because you base your comment on a religious premise, the premise of faith of Islam and Judaism and Christianity, and other faiths for that matter. But these three being the sort of more known divine religions. Yes, you're right. These religions do preach that every individual should seek to be close to God and should seek salvation in that. And these religions do not encourage violence against others. But the fact of the matter is that we live in a human society which over the millennia has tried to seek resources, whether at the level of individuals or at the level of groups or at the level of states. It's always been, well, let me say, it's been about faith and it's been about economics.
Yeah, economics.
Resources.
Thank you. Bring in
Resources.
economics.
To seize resources, people have always fought. Okay, so whether it is I want to seize that piece of land and I want to take that battle to a court, or I want to do that through use of force, or whatever. And when it comes to countries, it's resources, whether those resources are mineral resources or oil, or energy resources or whatever. So groups and nations and societies have also followed the same kind of pattern of wanting to seize resources because resources are necessary for human beings to live, and resources are necessary for human societies to progress, and resources are necessary for countries and states to develop. And because we associate ourselves with the immediate groups in which we live, we were talking of tribal, in a way the tribal thing is still alive in the sense that, okay, we all are more concerned about the well-being and welfare of the people and the groups of people and the societies and the communities and the countries in which we live and we belong to. And we want that those societies, those communities, those countries should develop so that we and our children have a better life in the future.
Okay. He wants to
we are unconcerned, not that we are, I wouldn't say that all humanity is unconcerned about the rest of humanity. No, I'm not suggesting that. There are some very good people who think that we should seek peace and we should share resources with other people and we should support them for their development. But we as human species do have that selfish interest of first taking care of myself and my family, then making sure that every Pakistani is taken care of, and then maybe every American should also be taken care of.
Okay.
That is how I would think as a Pakistani.
Johnny's got a question.
Yeah.
I got two questions. One's philosophical and the other one is, literal. I don't know if I'll go philosophical, but
go philosophical.
Well, my question is I understand the the heritage is to think of my brother as well, me first, and then my brother is my enemy, and then me and my brother, my cousin is my enemy, and etc. But I have my opinion, and I'm wondering, that's, in my mind, I feel like that sets up conflict, inevitably. I believe that it's possible to conceive of a different reality where we can create a global mindscape, where that means we'd have to let go of our tribal heritages. We'd have to think on a global mind.
Non-zero sum.
And I just want to say that you say that's how humans are. Humans have the selfish. But I also believe that we can progress beyond humanity into a different species, a different mindset.
History is a nightmare from which we're attempting to awaken. The alarm clock should be going off.
I know that the Jewish, I'll go philosophical, the Jewish heritage, they believe that the Messiah will come. And then the Muslims, they believe in Jesus, right?
No, 12th Imam, the Shia.
No, 12th Imam is Shia. But
Shia, but it's part of it.
Yeah, but they also believe Messiah will come.
Yeah,
it's the same philosophy.
Yeah.
Jesus will come back.
Yeah,
the philosophy is the same.
But how does Sunni Muslim feel about that issue that he's talking about? But you finish your question. You can get to... Yeah, I know. He's a very smart fellow.
This will come, however it comes. And when that happens, we will no longer be humans or a tribe. We'll be a global tribe.
Yeah.
So I just want us to remember that possibility, because we don't have to be humans. We can be superhumans.
Yeah, and that gets back to the larger issues.
You know,
we live at a
in
time...
in my language there is a verse, all right? I speak Urdu language. Urdu is the national language of Pakistan.
Yeah.
The verse goes, and I'll translate that. फरिश्ते से बेहतर है इंसान होना, मगर इसमें लगती है मेहनत ज़्यादा. What it means is,
excuse me, can you say it again?
फरिश्ते से बेहतर है इंसान होना, मगर इसमें लगती है मेहनत ज़्यादा. It is better to be a human than to be an angel, but it requires more toil and hard work to be a human. All right? So,
that's not exactly what he said.
No, it's not. That's what I'm suggesting.
Yeah, okay.
That. And therefore, what I want to say is that we really don't have to become something ultra human or something beyond human or angelic or something. If we can be good human beings, I think we can achieve what you are suggesting. All I was saying was that that is desirable. And Joseph and David was also, when he was introducing his comment, he said that Muhammad brought universalism. But even Muslims around the world, even though they proclaim to be one ummah, one nation, but they're not one nation, are they?
No.
Not at all.
All right. So
in Kashmir, they said, how come the Saudis don't help us?
Yeah, so what I'm saying is that the reality of the, I'm only saying that there's a reality of the world. And the reality of the world is not exactly what is desirable. Okay? So, whether or not...
The reality of our world right here, I feel like we're at like the super level.
I would suggest one factor.
And if it works here, then it could work larger. If we always remind people, when we go into our meetings and we say, this is human nature, but we can transcend that, so let's remember that. Let's
we did.
But generally we are all good people. We are only subjected to, the reason what is happening is, it's few bad people who are subjecting us to what is happening to us today. Generally, we are all good people. Look at Manhattan. We are from different nationalities, different religions, different colors. Do we find a difference? We go together to see the movie. We're in the same shopping mall. We're in the same restaurant. We are good people.
I know some bad people in
I said generally. No, I said generally.
2 or 3. I
No, I
two or
said,
3.
that's why I said
But we have to
generally.
listen to
Generally-
Joseph because,
Generally, we are
he's been wanting to say something and we've been...
I want to say one thing also, first and
Make it,
foremost. From my good experience in the United Nations and having worked at a tremendous the law of the sea, I have found that in most human beings across the board, greed supplants any good wishes.
And therefore, we want
That's-
other guys' resources
Yeah.
for ourselves.
Yeah.
No, we just gotta be so
I don't
positive
really-
together as a group that they feel bad about being bad.
I would
That's
not.
how we should be.
That's how it
That's
is.
how we are.
If we're positive,
No,
but
but
bad people
I
feel
would-
guilty and then they die.
I would not.
It won't...
No, I would not.
Why they feel guilty and die?
Evil dies.
No, but I.
No, that is an evil wish.
Why
It's
not
not
plant
evil.
more
It's-
because
it's
that's
the
a die?
elimination of
You
evil.
want people to die, that's
No,
evil.
the elimination of the evil seed that can exist through culture. But when
Evil
Oh,
inside
it's
them
just right there,
dies.
just around the corner.
But
I see that we have here a kind of a very strange but positive state of congruence. I see like this. Certainly there are these two extremes, right? The reality, this robust, drastic reality, and this philosophical ideal leading to this salvation or whatever you want to call it. However, this reality is not static. The reality changes. The reality can evolve or can devolve. Actually, can degenerate. We can actually lose all the great progress that we have achieved. Just one hydrogen bomb can take care of it. And forget about Socrates and Plato and Kant and all these other
The weapons may be species lethal now. They may be species lethal. Particularly germ.
Coming to your point, there is this reality, but to transcend this reality through what I call the spirit, which includes science, the arts, any creative endeavor, then that can change this reality and bring it closer to that state that we can call ideal reality if we want it, right? So that at the end, and I was struck when you used those Urdu words, because that was pure humanism. It was pure humanism. You touched on that human core that underlies everything that we are now doing here as animals. Because in this contradictory state, where we have on one hand predators and parasites, or you call them selfish people, right? And on the other hand, creative people, people who with their ingenuity and with their creative elan are producing not just abstract concepts, but actually change reality because of what they create in terms of their concrete contributions to human life.
I would like to say something in terms of all this, if I may, and it is, I'm not so sure that physiologically Homo sapien has changed very much from first we emerged out of the evolutionary process. I guess it's 200,000 years ago we emerged. And what's changed, what has really changed, has been the unique...
Watching public access.
Well, public access is part of it, but the unique capability of extending consciousness into the into the environment and making an environment other than what in the Eden-like sense is given, which is the lot of most of the creatures and so forth. And we've now reached a point, I threw out a line a couple of minutes ago, and there's some, I don't know, you're military people, you may know better than I, but we lived for quite a little period of time by one tribe getting better weapons, a Gatling gun, so they could steal the grain from somebody else and build their empire and so forth. And we get to a point where the weapon systems became more and more sophisticated with the nuclear and the hydrogen and so forth. And then there's germ warfare, there's black ops. There's things that are going on. The military is still the thrust of the research, but I believe the weapons can be, there's modeling I've seen, that the weapons, if there was an unleashing of the destructive capability on an all-out scale like the Second World War in some catastrophe, that the weapon systems are such that they could be lethal to the entire species, which they were not as recently as the Second World War. We lived out of history. It's a nightmare of that. But then, so when you get to that, that's an existential new reality in terms of this evolution of consciousness in this part of the universe. We're at a moment, he brings up speciation or something. There was an evolutionary process. There was Australopithecine for a few million years, then there was Homo habilis. We appear. We're coming to a point of existential new relationship to the universe, perhaps. It's not a joke. And we're coming to that point. And so what would be the adverse side, existentially significant, as existentially significant as the destruction of our entire species and the evolution of consciousness in its leading edge in universe? As we get to the point, we're going to take the measure of the Big Bang 13.8 billion years ago within a nanosecond from the CERN thing. I mean, that's some pretty sophisticated extension of capability. But we've also, as some have said, Buckminster Fuller and others that were looking very seriously and realistically at the material world, that we also have an incredible technological capability of providing for everybody and the ecology, which a way that is equally significantly different than history, that we're coming to that point. And I just had my friend bring me the book. I want to recommend it even. This goes back 7 years. A man named Robert Wright, and he's a real scholar, and he just brought me the book. George just brought me back. I'll tell you what it looks like. He wrote a book 7 years. He's written a new one on religion, but he's written this book 7 years ago. It's called Non-Zeros. Non-Zero. So we talk in terms of zero-sum, that we may have transcended in terms of capability at a level transcended to immediate material reality, the ironclad laws of scarcity, that there is not enough. We may have enough that we get to non-zero sum. Not if you're in a zero-sum situation, for one to gain, somebody else has to lose. Scarcity kicks in, all of that. We may have a capability of transcending material scarcity at this very time, but we don't have any institutions. They've all been formulated with an entirely different context, and we have to find some understanding of what the new reality might be, and it begins to take us into a context where his thinking, young fella thinking, that we may be awakening from the nightmare of history that James Joyce called history, and we're at a very crucial moment in the evolution of broader universal consciousness. What that would be, a liberated humanity within an ecological context of universal justice and universal expression of every part of the human society maximally engaged, not worrying about which kid they're going to let starve to death or all the other things they've had to do. We may be at a moment of incredible transformation that can be really seen in almost evolutionary terms, and we're privileged to be alive at that particular time. This book is particularly good. I'd recommend it very much to go along. But that touches into what Joseph Ben David, and do we live at that kind of a time or not? Or is it just more of history?
I mean,
And it's who's talking.
yeah, I like what you're saying here, but and I think everyone in this room came to a point where we all agreed that this would be nice. But how can we get pragmatic about the situation at hand that they're here to describe to us?
Right, you are.
In other words, what's the 3 year? What's your three? Each of you, different opinion. most likely, what would your 3-year plan be for the best and most progressive direction things could go?
And could I just add one addendum?
Afghanistan, yeah.
We are all now, including Mr. Obama,
Is
now.
it too hard to give that opinion? I mean,
No.
because
Just to have a
it's too complex? I mean,
sidebar thing to what you're saying. It just goes along with it because Mr. Obama is sitting in the White House thinking about the things we're talking about himself seriously now, because we're coming to a moment of quality, of real maybe change, and we've just got General what's his name? General McChrystal has put forth the thing. I read the whole thing. It's an incredible strategic change he's suggesting for the country of Afghanistan in terms of our strategy. I think this is something that we could have along with what she's saying. What is to happen? What is the United States of America and the people, including the President, going to do with his suggestion that he's made to the President and he's considering now, if you can add it to what she's saying? What's the strategy for the Western powers of the United States toward the country of Afghanistan at this crucial moment in the months ahead?
Thank you. You've asked me to say something on that, but before that, Maggie came here, she gave me this book, which is Urdu verses and translation in English. And she wants me to read one particular verse with its translation.
Okay.
And I'll just do that, and then
you address some of this which she asked.
Crystal's report and what needs to be done. The verses, I think it is from Mir is a very famous poet of Urdu, old time poet. अब ऐसे हैं कि साने के मिजाज ऊपर बहम पहुँचे जो खातिर खा अपने हम हुए होते तो क्या होते. And it translates like this: such as we are, God fashioned us close to his heart's desire. If we had been what we had wished, what might we not have been?
What's the last one?
If we had been what we had wished, what might we not have been?
Okay.
What might we not have been?
Yeah, right. Now we not have been. Yeah, right.
What we had. It's just such as
Clever
we are,
people, those Urdu
such as we
speakers.
are. God with a capital G, fashioned us close to his heart's desire. If we had been what we had desired, what might we not have been?
Yes, right.
All right? Okay, so that's the verse, and maybe perhaps I'll come to that.
Or her, or where do we say? Where are we going? Where are we all going?
Okay, I really think I haven't read the whole report.
Yeah.
As we were talking earlier,
I'm not sure I did. I read a long segment.
Report,
It was
but
amazing.
I've read excerpts and I've read comments on that.
Right.
I think McChrystal has put his finger on the most important, on I think a number of the very important issues and points, and has come up with recommendations which are strategically and even politically very sound. What he's saying is that you cannot win a fighting war.
Right.
Therefore, do not try to win it. I mean, you can keep putting more and more of soldiers and troops and weapon systems into it and still lose at the end of the day.
Right.
Not the war, but also face and then
another Vietnam.
I mean,
could be.
Look, another worse, I would say.
Worse.
When you say another Vietnam, you're thinking like an American.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, sorry.
You're thinking like an American. You say another Vietnam.
Yeah.
I say worse because the mess that you will leave there will be devastating. In that case, you would have devastated whatever is left of Afghanistan by that time.
Yeah.
Because of more fighting, and what you will leave will be a terrible mess where different tribes and warlords and people will be fighting.
A lost reputation.
Yeah.
So, of course, that's why I said, that you will also lose face. So, I think McChrystal's report gives us very good direction to plan for the future. And if war of guns and bombs is not winnable, what is it that can be done which can win the hearts and minds of the people over there?
We tried in Vietnam, remember?
you try it
Kind of.
differently. Look, Vietnam
On two
you know,
tracks, yeah.
In Vietnam, you try very differently.
Win the hearts and minds.
First of all, let me also say, first of all, the situation in Vietnam was quite different.
Okay.
All right. Here, the situation is different. You know, when we draw analogies of one situation with the other, we sometimes forget that the geopolitical realities, the geographical realities, the cultural realities might be quite different, and I think they are very different in this case. So therefore, we will, without drawing an analogy to Vietnam, I'll make the comment, and the comment really is to win the hearts and minds of the people. And Pashtun makes a very important point. His point is, he says, the US forces and ISAF are there to provide security to the Afghan people,
That's what he's
and
talking
not
about.
to fight them.
Mm-hmm.
And he mentioned
That's
that
what he
point
talked
regarding
about,
Taliban.
yeah.
He says they are there to provide security, and he's also issued a directive to his forces already, by the way, where he said that he wants his troops to be ensuring that they extend security of the people rather than fighting them. And security against what? Security against the Taliban, and also ensuring that they are secure from the actions of the allied forces. All right.
Yeah.
Also, and any other insecurity that they have. He's of course talking of physical security, basically. He's not talking of food security and things like that, because there are other international agencies whose job it is to do those things. But the military presence over there also supports the provision of the other natures of security. So that is one thing that he is recommending. Provide people security and not insecurity. Do not enhance insecurity by conflagrating, fighting, and war of war.
Right.
The other thing he's saying is that you have to win over the people by giving them, what you were calling a Peace Corps kind of a thing.
Well, that sounded like he's calling for a Peace Corps.
Yeah,
Build
exactly.
homes,
by giving
schools,
them a Peace Corps kind of a thing.
The thing that we didn't do at the end of Charlie Wilson's
therefore,
war.
give them their day-to-day requirements. Carry out development, like I would say, it would mean carry out development at the grassroots level. Okay, you don't have to build, 11
Nation building, is that nation building or no?
It is nation building also, but nation building, is a much bigger thing to suggest. You develop a government, you develop national institutions, you develop NGOs, you develop civil society. Nation building is too big. This is nation building, but he's trying to start it from.
No,
he wants to
Let's
do
hear
nation
from the
building at the grassroots level.
Yeah, right. Okay, Maqbool is in the peacekeeping game.
I mean, first of all, let's not mix with what Charlie Wilson wanted to do. And what current general wants to do.
No, what we didn't do after,
Charlie Wilson.
We messed up at the end.
No, Charlie Wilson empowered the people to fight their own war. America didn't go there, right? To fight the war for the people.
Right.
Then what he wanted was that after they had won the war, can these people now get resources to build their own country?
Right.
That's what Charlie Wilson wanted to do. How do we really think now that the American forces being there, and they should win the hearts and mind of the people, they should provide security to who? They can't provide security to their own self. They're fighting for security of the Afghan people. They dare to provide security for their own self.
Well,
who are they fighting?
And in Iraq.
No, who are they fighting? They're fighting the indigenous people. We still haven't determined that those indigenous people are a couple of 100,000 people who are waging this war against them. Nobody has determined that. We haven't determined whether the Afghan people really want this security or they don't want this security.
But I just want to make
let me say something. The Afghan people might feel that for the last 8 years we have lived miserably. Before that, yes, we didn't have son for women, but at least we were not getting killed in this number. Now, when we were in that position, could somebody have come and spoken to whatever these bloody Talibans are, and, when they were providing security, maybe given us some other means to progress and at least have some schools or something. Did the Taliban refuse that? We don't know. Now we are assuming that these forces should not win the hearts and minds of the people. I'm telling you, no forces from outside can win the hearts and minds of the people, especially when they are still not capable of protecting their own self. Adding it by 40,000, 80,000, building schools where? You don't have access to most of the cities. You have very fortified cantonments. The moment you get out of them, there's somebody attacking you. We have to be, more realistic about it. Yes, maybe, the way Obama is planning, let's get the combat troops out of Iraq and let Iraqi people take charge of their own self, and then we provide them maybe with resources. And I would say, build the Afghan army, make them stronger, and let them fight this own war of theirs. And then provide them maybe support only if there's a credible government. If you want to go and build schools and then getting them destroyed, I don't think this is building a Peace Corps while you're still there is going to work. I would never agree with that, with any of that, with any of those ideas.
It's a very troubling language when people talk about, I can't win militarily, so I'm going to take your mind.
Yeah.
That's troubling language. And for us to sit here and entertain that.
No, you can't.
Well, it can't be done. It's happening in Haiti. I've just left Haiti, where people are being destroyed with the United Nations troops housed there, killing people, raping people, controlling people.
And then educating them.
For governments. For governments, for American government, for France, for Canada, for Brazil. The games that are played, and it's these games. But to tell somebody, okay, I can't win militarily, so I'm going to go after your mind in another way. Here's some bread.
No, the Afghans are going to say, who are you to win my heart and mind? Why would you win my heart and mind? I'm fine.
Mahmoud, we are talking of McChrystal's report.
No,
we are not.
We were talking about the realistic way of McChrystal's report. We're all very fond of it. It's beautifully written, everything else.
Better than what we've been doing.
If it can be implemented. But, I mean,
he's also said what you said, by the way.
Do we learn from history?
Amen.
Do we learn from history, or do we say...
A question here. When you talk and refer to cantonments in Afghanistan, cantonment is a British military word.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Which you have basically a fortified area with a military
That's true.
presence.
Yeah.
And also, etc. So you're talking that Afghanistan should be filled with cantonments?
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that right now the American Army or the international or ISAF or whatever you want to call them, they are in cantonments. The moment they get out of their green zones, they're attacked.
Strategic villages.
What are we talking
Vietnam.
about? Winning the hearts and minds of who?
Why are Americans there in the first place?
Well, that's, I wouldn't really...
I think, isn't that our question more than...
That's a totally different thing.